Parenting isn't a solo mission. We're not meant to raise kids alone. It's not just the children that benefit from a village, the whole family does. In this video, I'll be sharing why finding your village might be the most important part of raising a family. We'll look at what it is to belong, the history of community, why I feel so strongly about community, the future of community. There'll be a poem in there, a meditation, and what does a modern day village look like? So let's get started. Welcome or welcome back to A Spiritual Life. If you're new here, my name is Carrie. I'm a mindfulness teacher, a home educating mum of two on a non-religious spiritual path. I help parents move out of autopilot, live consciously and raise connected families. So if that sounds like you, you're very welcome here. Okay, so we're talking about community and a village when it comes to raising a family. I'm going to start with a quote from Brian Solis. Community is much more than belonging to something. It's about doing something together that makes belonging matter. And when we talk about belonging, some of us might feel that it's us fitting into something. And does that really feel authentic? So I speak about Brené Brown a lot with my quotes. I've got a few sentences from Brené Brown, quotes if you will, with regards to fitting in versus belonging. So the first one, belonging is being somewhere you want to be and they want you to be. Fitting in is being somewhere you want to be but they don't care either way. Second one is belonging is being accepted for you. Fitting in is being accepted for being like everyone else. And the last one, really clear and concise, the last one. If I get to be me, I belong. If I have to be like you, I fit in. So do you see the difference there between fitting in somewhere and really belonging somewhere? And can you feel the difference when that's happened for you? When you've really gone out your way to fit in and you're not really being authentic and true to you, and when you have been authentic and being you around people and felt that real sense of belonging. There's a difference, isn't there? So we're going to talk a bit about the history of community. And what's the issue now? Is there one? So first off, let's talk about the past. Years gone by, our ancestors and indigenous people, they seemed to have it right when you look back at what they used to do. So they were safer in a tribe. The reason why there was community is safety. We as human beings are safer in a tribe. We'll look out for each other. They lived in a community of all ages and all were valued for their roles. So there wasn't like you're old and weak and not valuable to us. And likewise, you're not strong when you're a child. You're not valuable to us. There was none of that. Each had their own roles. The elders were looked up to for their wisdom and knowledge that they could pass down through storytelling. And children brought light and joy and happiness to the community. A mix of family and friends, so not just blood related to make up this community. It was a whole tribe. And they all grew up together. They socialise and eat together. So that became a sacred ritual that they would do. Make food, eat food, clear up together. The whole shebang was done as a community. I've put here now, all had the same values and principles. So I wouldn't say that was necessarily true. They might have had some different values and principles, but back then you just got on with it, and you just stayed in that community because you were safer in that tribe. So you might have felt a little bit different, but again, is that fitting in or is it belonging? But yeah, you kind of do it because out of safety, whether you agree or not with some of the values or principles. I'm assuming, I don't know. They supported each other mentally, physically, emotionally and spiritually. It was all there. So some examples I've got here are the red tents. So that was a thing back then. If you've not heard of the red tents, this is where women would go who were on their period at that time of the month. Because they need that support. They need that nurturing. They need that feminine energy to support them at that time of the month. And so from kids at puberty right all the way up would go there and support each other however they needed it. Elders would teach through storytelling. I've mentioned this. So that would be a thing. Storytelling would be passed down, wisdom. That's why, you know, if you're in business side of things, they're all telling you about telling stories now. Why? Because that's back to the basics. It's where what we've always known. That's how we learned. We didn't learn from someone standing at a flip chart paper, she says. We learnt from stories. So they would grow and cook food together. They would dance and sing. They'd connect to spirit. They'd connect to spirit as well. So they'd have a belief around that and a ritual around that. But what happened to this? It still does occur in certain parts of the world and traditions, and it continues with certain practices and values and beliefs. But that style is still there with regards to Aboriginal communities and shamanic communities. Again, in this spiritual realm, we are all in the spiritual world. If you are that way, a lot of people are turning back to shamanism and all the rituals that go around with that. So there's got to be something good about it, hasn't there, if we're now going back that way. So nowadays, so we've done past, now we're up to present, the present moment. What does community look like now? It's not all doom and gloom, but it's not really great, is it? So a lot of us don't live near our family, let alone with them. So there's distance, physically and emotionally. There's no emotional support, there's no physical support within our family. We don't have the time and energy to support our own family half the time, let alone others. Wish I'd spent more time with family and friends is one of the top regrets of the dying. So this is not a shame and blame thing. This is just an observation, okay? So we've moved away from our families for jobs more than likely, or because we want to travel and see the world. And we're able to now, you know. Back in the past, in all that I've just said, in indigenous cultures or whatever, they don't go on planes and you know, all that wasn't there. But now we do. This modern world has the benefits of that. So if we choose to be away from our family and friends, then there is a gap there, there's a disconnect. We don't have that support. So when I was doing some research for this talk, I came across a YouTube comment for someone that did a similar talk. And it said, it's not our job to raise your child. No, I'm fine with that. People, in my perspective of that comment wasn't, you know, I'm not going to get all personal about it. It was, they didn't really understand what the talk was about, where they were getting to. This about raising a village to raise a family, I say, not a child, and I'll tell you why, is about, it's not about you raising my kid. It's not about you disciplining my kid. That's not what it's about. It's about having the support, having that mental, physical, emotional and spiritual connection with people where you feel like you belong. So no, I'm not asking you to raise my child. I'm not asking you to discipline them and teach them. But invariably, by being in a connected and safe community, those will happen because you'll want to. You'll want to teach other people's kids. You'll want to look after them for a bit. So that's where this is going. But it was interesting to see that as a comment for a similar video. I don't want to pry or be a nuisance. So this is a common perspective of elder generations. There's a difference between prying and caring. So I had that, and I'll come on to my experience in a minute, but I had that as a reason of that disconnect. Don't have the same values or beliefs, so there's disconnect, heckles go up, egos are present, and we need to find common ground and acceptance. So if I think of a community, living as a community or a commune, whatever you want to call it, my husband, for one, will say, I don't like them. I don't want to be in one. No one gets on. There's always one that does the work and the other one, and the rest are, there's only the few that do the work, and there's always the odd one that doesn't and doesn't pull the weight and that kind of thing. There's arguments and, you know. So nowadays, we do have difference of beliefs and values. I mean, that comment in YouTube is an example. You know, everyone's got an opinion on something, and that's fine, free speech and all that. But can we have an opinion and still be with people? I think that's where we need to go next in our evolution. You know, having values and beliefs is fine. And it's not even about taking it personally or anything. It's why can't we have these values and beliefs, even if they're different to our neighbour, and still be able to get on with them? Expectations aren't met. For example, some grandparents don't want to be involved. Another comment on the YouTube. The people you thought would help don't. It's not their fault, but it's another example of why it's so isolating. So I thought that was really interesting. So people like our grandparents, who have been through their own experiences in their time of life, in their day and age, want to do it differently when they get to grandparents' age, even though they might have had the support themselves. The irony, right? So they've had the support, but now they get to be grandparents, they want to go off and be free, and they don't want to do the support thing. And that's fine, but it is another example of why our generation are now feeling so isolated. Spiritually, as we grow on our spiritual path, we change. People don't like change, especially if they are not in control of it. That's their ego speaking. This creates disconnection and therefore a greater sense of loneliness. So, communities don't have to come together because of spirituality, but you'll often find there's spiritual elements underlying within the community. The 3 points of spirituality. So this was mentioned on a podcast. Lewis Howe, I'm sure you'll come across him, Lewis Howe, and this was Lisa Miller that said this. There's 3 things about spirituality and community. There's loneliness, and when you're in community, you then feel supported. You feel lost, but in community, you have guidance. And you feel unloved, but with community you're loved and held and supported. So that's the difference. So why I feel so strongly about community. So my story is, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I've had a lot of loss in my life. Both physically and mentally, really. So I had 3 bereavements. 3 out of 4 of our parents, mine and my husband's parents, have died. Then I've had physical, disconnect, physical loss, and physical loss of support. I progressed on my spiritual path and became more authentically me. Excuse me. I became more me on my spiritual path, which meant I changed. And I don't mind change. I quite like it and I'll embrace it. But not everyone is the same. I mentioned that. Not everybody is the same when it comes to other people changing, because it upscuttles them. And because of that, a lot of people left my life. So they have fallen away for whatever reason, whether I was aware of it or not. People have fallen out of my life. Again, so that feels disconnect and loss and isolated. My hubby was working away in the same county, but too far to trek it every day. So he was away Monday to Friday, and I was at home as a home educated mum all day, every day with the girls. So it was hard, really hard. Add in the fact I don't have parents. Add in the fact I've got, there's people that don't want to support in the way I want it or need it. And then add in that friends and people that are close to me have just dropped away as well because I've been on this spiritual path. So it's not been easy. There's been disconnect and isolation from friends and family, and I never felt more alone. Now, yes, when you are spiritual, there is usually some sort of connection to this something else, as I call it. But it really tests your faith and your trust in that, doesn't it, when you're in those times of real isolation. So I did feel it. I still felt the connection, and I can still give myself all this stuff. Everything I'm craving, I can always give it myself. But it still doesn't stop you feeling the feels, okay? And with mindfulness, we feel the feels. We feel it anyway, whether they're good or bad. We're not positive toxicity here. We're not going to shun that negative stuff. We're going to feel it and embrace it as well as give ourselves what we need and all the positive stuff. So I know some of you will relate to some of my story of loneliness and isolation, and it comes to mind. I mentioned this in the other video, the connection video. Excuse me, every time I come on here. So yes, I mentioned it in the other video about the Hermit card. The Hermit card is isolation and space to think. So it reminds me of that. Reminds me of this place that I've been. This place is not nice, it's not comfortable to be in, whether you choose it or not. And for this reason, there was no error in my talk today. It not only takes a village to raise a child, but it does to raise a whole family too. So how do we get community back? Another comment off YouTube. Did a lot of research here, didn't I? What parents need is a modern village. Learn to be valuable. Learn to be vulnerable and ask for help, and give it too. Ask, what can you do to be part of the village? Let's make parenting more natural for the next generation and be the village. Okay? So the way I see that is like a money pot. You think of a money pot, you put something in, you take it out. But if you think of that in investing in your community, so the money pot becomes a community pot. So when you're doing well, you give in to this pot because you can and you want to. And it feels good to. So when you give, it actually feels good. And I think we've forgotten that. Because when we've done all this stuff on self-care, it's like I'm giving all the time. But when it's in a place of I want to give, we actually get that feeling of joy back, because we can see the joy we've made when we've given to somebody. And I think we've forgotten that feeling. And when you're not doing so well, the pot is there for you. Ask and take from it. Yeah? By asking, you're not just taking. You are giving because you are allowing someone else the feeling of giving to you. People want to help. Let them. That's a big lesson I learned through my bereavements. I learned to ask for help because if I was in their position, I would want to be helping me too. So I learned that lesson, and I did start to ask for help. And when you've got a community, you can do that. So can you create or join one yourself? We're going to go into that now. Okay. So we're going to just do, if you would like to, I invite you to close your eyes. I'm going to read a poem, and then we just do a little contemplation meditation afterwards. The Village Within by Edgar Guest. In the bustling city or quiet countryside, there lies a village where hearts coincide. A village within of neighbours and friends, whose support and love knows no ends. In each smiling face and helping hand, we find the essence of community's strand. Through joys and sorrows, we stand as one, the village within where acceptance is won. It takes a village, they say, to raise a child, but it takes a community to keep dreams wild. Together we grow through highs and lows, nurturing each other, love steadily flows. So let us cherish this village we share. In unity and connection we all declare. For the strength of our community will never wane. The village within forever will sustain. And keeping your eyes closed, you might want to put your hand on your heart. And take a few moments now and think about what community would both look and feel like to you. What's the location of your community? The method. What commitment and time can you give it? Who would be in your community? What common intention would they be within that community? What activities would be in there? And what support? And how would all that look like and make you feel? And you can slowly open your eyes again. So that's got you thinking a little bit. And now we'll go to the flip chart. What does a modern village look like? So I've called it here our sacred community. So I'm all about practical. If you haven't guessed, if you're new on this channel, I'm all about practical approach to spirituality and to using these mindfulness tools. And I've a very analytical mind and strategic mind, so everything has to be categorised, if you hadn't guessed. So there's method in the madness. So number 1 is where, number 2 is when, number 3 is who, number 4 is your practicalities of community, and number 5 is mental, then we've got physical, emotional and spiritual. So they're all the categories that I listed to really pack it out what a community might look like. So where? When we did that little exercise there, where did you see your community coming from? Or where was it held? So I've got nature, you could have village halls, and of course we've got online. Because this is the modern thing, this is the modern day village. So we have got online. It's not all doom and gloom. I'm talking to you because of the advances in technology. So it's not all doom and gloom. We can have a community online. I personally think face-to-face would be better, but it's the next best thing to reach more people and to have support if you don't have physical people around you. So when? You've got to have commitment and regular showing up, because if we don't have commitment, we can't connect with people. Okay? I'm going to come on to that in a minute. So really commit. How much could you commit? And if you really felt into that exercise and you felt what it would feel like to have community, then isn't it worth a little bit of commitment? And what I also say on this channel is, when you're spiritual and not religious like myself, and we don't have what religion does, which is commitment to show up every week to church or wherever, we don't have that. So when we've got community, we can make that, but make it our own way. So I feel commitment is a big thing. Number 3, who would be in your community? So we have got family, if you're lucky enough to have family, whether physically here in this world or physically close to you to be able to support you. So I think you're very lucky if you have that. And I found in my journey, when I'm speaking to people, oh, woe betide me, I don't have parents. And people do, they're feeling like I have been. And I'm like, but you've got parents. How are you feeling the same way as I do? Because they don't want to input as much. And so you do feel like me. So I was coming across more and more of this happening. And I thought, oh, this is not right. You know, we need to build this community. We need to get this community going. So we've got friends, family, neighbours, teachers, counsellors, co-workers. So a wealth of people we can tap into if we make the effort. And they're like-minded. That's the other barrier, isn't it? If other people are like-minded and willing to do it. Practicality then. So we've got boundaries or rules. I like the word boundaries better. Guidelines, whatever. I think, like we've said before, my hubby's view of community is that people don't pull their weight and things like that. And then if you talk about finances, that's in there. It becomes a bit of a sticky place to be, doesn't it? When you've got a group of people that you really need to have them on the same page when you're talking about finances and rules. But I think when definitely the bigger you get, this has to be, diplomatically done somehow. And so these boundaries will be useful for that. Common intention is a good way to be. So it could be just that you've got an interest, gardening. You go to a gardening community. And within that, they can support you with all these other things. I know someone that went through a lot of, had a lot of mental health issues, and one of her ways of healing and coming out of that was to go weekly and volunteer to be in this gardening project. And it honestly, it brought her to life, that and music. She does a music thing as well. Goes and plays an instrument in a group. So there are many ways where it's not just about the common intention, it's about what else it gives you. I've got here childcare. Now, as a home educating mum, I would get close with other families that I felt I connected with and trusted and parented similar to me. And so I felt okay enough to allow them to look after my children while I did something for an hour or two. So that's my vision. I'm not going to go into it too much, but I did come across another thing as to where you still, in this day and age, have to be sceptical of community, because I'm shouting on the rooftops about community, and it brought me down a peg or two. You do, as a parent, we have to be very, very mindful of who it is we are leaving our children with. And I'll just say it as that. I might do a Carrie's Crack on it, which is my vlog. So I might do a Carrie's Crack on it at some point to go into a bit more depth about it and discuss. But what I'll say is community can help with childcare, just have your own discernment about it. And help with business or work support. So if you're setting up a business, or you have a business and you have work to do, then you've got that support there if it comes to the childcare thing. Delegate tasks and responsibilities. So yes, don't be the one doing all the work. Let's share it out. Let's have people doing everything and really make it feel like a community. Community isn't just one person does it all, or lots of people do it and one person doesn't. It's not that. It has to be shared, and that's the difficulty, isn't it? Number 5, mentally. So learning, workshops, knowledge, skills, creating something, paint, craft, woodwork, cooking, singing. So all these things that you can do mentally within that community space. Physically, then similar, you can dance, you can exercise, you can walk, you can play music, you might go wild swimming, all these things, getting out in nature, enjoying moving your body, that might be the thing or part of the thing. And emotionally, listen and respect what is being said. Like back to what I said before, we can all have difference of opinions, but we can still be a community and get along if we don't believe the same things. Hold space for people when they need it, when they need to be, when they're emotionally vulnerable and they want to share. Allow them and to feel safe and secure in that space. Scream and shout if needed. Really get it all out, and allow that. It doesn't always have to be plinky plonky, crying and all that. It can be really raw and I'm really mad, allow those feelings too. And to really be seen and heard, because that's all we want. That's all we want, is to feel and be seen and heard. Right from being a kid, that inner kid in you now as an adult, the adult themselves, and into older age, all we want is to feel seen and heard. And that goes to the elderly, the elderly want to be seen and heard too. It's not the end of their life yet. They are still there, they are still valuable, they still have issues, they can still bring value. They need to be seen and heard too. Spiritually, see and hear each other's soul. So this is where we go right deep and we really feel what everyone else is feeling, and we really see and hear them. We're vulnerable, really vulnerable, and we enhance that and allow for that desire and creativity to come out. What is your soul desire? It's a space to allow that to open up. And sit together in ceremony and celebration. Rituals. Your group could have a ritual every, so it could be like the summer solstice that's coming up right now. It could be someone's birthday, and really do your own individual type of ritual. How nice would that be? Just celebrate the community in whichever way feels right for you. Feel highs and lows together, because that's life. Feel the real highs, feel the real lows, and be there to support and enjoy it throughout. Intuition, feel into the intuition, let people have their own instincts and verbalise them. And know that you're not alone and you are supported, and that's why you're there. And that's the spiritual side of it. So these just are a few that encompass the principles of safety, structure and support. So within all that, it's got to be safe, it's got to have some structure, and you've got to feel supported. So they're your 3 pillars to start a community within which all this encompasses within these 3 pillars. So, have I got another page? I've got another page. We're nearly done. The the sacred path to community, the 3 pillars of a spiritual life. So this is what I'm all about here. So slow down and make time for commitment. I mentioned before, commitment, if you don't show up regularly, your kids and you can't build bonds. You can't get that connection, because without commitment, with commitment comes connection. So if you haven't got commitment, you can't get connection. So to have that is to be vulnerable, to really connect with someone. You need to know a bit about them. You don't have to give them your all singing, all dancing life story, but you know, I feel that too. I resonate. That kind of thing. So you feel connected. And with connection comes community. And that's what I'm all about, because when you're spiritual, like I said, you don't have that commitment of showing up in a place, but with it here and what I'm becoming with my business, I hope to be able to provide a community which allows for commitment to show up, and I can help you with accountability, because if you're spiritual and not religious, where's the accountability? I'm all for self-care, you know, but in the example of I'm not going to get up at 5 o'clock and meditate because I'm too tired, that's self-care. But when that becomes a regular habit and you haven't meditated for ages, then where's the accountability there? So that's an example of that. So yes, commitment, I'm all about. Connection, I'm all about. That heart to heart, that's why my slogan is moving from your head to heart. Really feel and see and hear other people and really connect. And that breeds community. So that's what I'm all about. And you can follow me for more. I've got some socials. You can subscribe and like and share and do all the stuff you do on YouTube here. And you can also check the description box for some free guides I've got. I've got a good one on connection, and I've got a 4-part video series with that too. So I'll link all them at the end as well, but then in the description box as well. And I'll leave you with the invitation to think about how you would want to be supported in a community and start to make inroads into creating that for others too. It really does take a village to raise a family. Thanks for listening. Hope it's helped. Any comments, leave them in the comment box. I'd love to hear from them. I'd love to hear them, and I'll reply. Thanks very much. Much love. Bye for now.